Part I of American Cookery by Amelia Simmons. Read by Betsy Bush in Marquette, Michigan, July, 2010. American Cookery, or the art of dressing viands, fish, poultry and vegetables, and the best modes of making pastes, puffs, pies, tarts, puddings, custards and preserves, and all kinds of cakes, from the imperial plum to plain cake, adapted to this country and all grades of life. By Amelia Simmons, an American orphan. Published according to Act of Congress, Hartford, printed by Hudson and Goodwin, for the author, 1796. Preface. As this treatise is calculated for the improvement of the rising generation of females in America, the lady of fashion and fortune will not be displeased, if many hints are suggested for the more general and universal knowledge of those females in this country, who, by the loss of their parents, or other unfortunate circumstances, are reduced to the necessity of going into families in the line of domestics, or taking refuge with their friends or relations, and doing those things which are really essential to the perfecting them as good wives and useful members of society. The orphan, though left to the care of virtuous guardians, will find it essentially necessary to have an opinion and determination of her own. The world, and the fashion thereof, is so variable, that old people cannot accommodate themselves to the various changes and fashions which daily occur. They will adhere to the fashion of their day, and will not surrender their attachments to the good old way, while the young and the gay bend and conform readily to the taste of the times, and fancy of the hour. By having an opinion and determination, I would not be understood to mean an obstinate perseverance in trifles, which borders on obstinacy, by no means, but only an adherence to those rules and maxims which have flood the test of ages, and will forever establish the female character, a virtuous character, although they conform to the ruling taste of the age in cookery, dress, language, manners, etc. It must ever remain a check upon the poor solitary orphan, that while those females who have parents, or brothers, or riches, to defend their indiscretions, that the orphan must depend solely upon character. How immensely important, therefore, that every action, every word, every thought, be regulated by the strictest purity, and that every movement meet the approbation of the good and wise. The candor of the American ladies is solicitously entreated by the authoress, as she is circumscribed in her knowledge, this being an original work in this country. Should any future editions appear, she hopes to render it more valuable. Directions for catering, or the procuring the best viands, fish, etc. How to choose flesh. Beef. The large stall-fed ox beef is the best. It has a coarse open grain, and oily smoothness. Dent it with your finger and it will immediately rise again. If old, it will be rough and spongy, and the dent remain. Cow beef is less boned, and generally more tender and juicy than the ox in America, which is used to labor. Of almost every species of animals, birds and fishes, the female is the tenderest, the richest flavored, and among poultry the soonest fattened. Mutton. Grass fed is good 2 or 3 years old. Lamb, if under 6 months, is rich, and no danger of imposition. It may be known by its size, in distinguishing either. Veal is soon lost. Great care, therefore, is necessary in purchasing. Veal brought to market in panniers, or in carriages, is to be preferred to that brought in bags and flouncing on a sweaty horse. Pork is known by its size, and whether properly fattened, by its appearance. To make the best bacon. To each ham put 1 ounce saltpetre, 1 pint bay salt, 1 pint molasses, shake together 6 or 8 weeks, or when a large quantity is together. Baste them with the liquor every day. When taken out to dry, smoke 3 weeks with cobs or malt fumes. To every ham may be added a cheek. If you stow away a barrel and not alter the composition, some add a shoulder. For transportation or exportation, double the period of smoking. Fish, how to choose the best in market. Salmon, the noblest and richest fish taken in fresh water, the largest are the best. They are unlike almost every other fish, are ameliorated by being 3 or 4 days out of water, if kept from heat and the moon, which has much more injurious effect than the sun. In all great fish markets, great fishmongers strictly examine the gills. If the bright redness is exchanged for a low brown, they are stale; but when live fish are brought flouncing into market, you have only to elect the kind most agreeable to your palate and the season. Shad, contrary to the generally received opinion, are not so much richer flavored, as they are harder when first taken out of the water. Opinions vary respecting them. I have tasted shad 30 or 40 miles from the place where caught, and really conceived that they had a richness of flavor which did not appertain to those taken fresh and cooked immediately, and have proved both at the same table, and the truth may rest here, that a shad 36 or 48 hours out of water, may not cook so hard and solid, and be esteemed so elegant, yet give a higher relished flavor to the taste. Every species generally of salt water fish are best fresh from the water, though the Hannah Hill, black fish, lobster, oyster, flounder, bass, cod, haddock, and eel, with many others, may be transported by land many miles, find a good market, and retain a good relish; but as generally live ones are bought first, deceits are used to give them a freshness of appearance, such as peppering the gills, wetting the fins and tails, and even painting the gills, or wetting with animal blood. Experience and attention will dictate the choice of the best. Fresh gills, full bright eyes, moist fins and tails, are denotements of their being fresh caught. If they are soft, it's certain they are stale, but if deceits are used, their smell must approve or denounce them, and be your safest guide. Of all fresh water fish, there are none that require, or so well afford haste in cookery, as the salmon trout. They are best when caught under a fall or cataract, from what philosophical circumstance is yet unsettled, yet true it is, that at the foot of a fall the waters are much colder than at the head. Trout choose those waters; if taken from them and hurried into dress, they are genuinely good, and take rank in point of superiority of flavor of most other fish. Perch and roach are noble pan fish. The deeper the water from whence taken, the finer are their flavors. If taken from shallow water, with muddy bottoms, they are impregnated therewith, and are unsavory. Eels, though taken from muddy bottoms, are best to jump in the pan. Most white or soft fish are best bloated, which is done by salting and peppering, and drying in the sun and in a chimney. After 30 or 40 hours drying, are best broiled, and moistened with butter, &c. Poultry, how to choose. Having before stated that the female in almost every instance is preferable to the male, and peculiarly so in the peacock, which though beautifully plumaged, is tough, hard, stringy, and untasted, and even indelicious, while the peahen is exactly otherwise, and the queen of all birds. So also in a degree, turkey. Hen turkey is higher and richer flavored, easier fattened, and plumper. They are no odds in market. Dunghill fowls are, from their frequent use, a tolerable proof of the former birds. Chickens, of either kind, are good, and the yellow legged the best, and their taste the sweetest. Capons, if young, are good, are known by short spurs and smooth legs. All birds are known, whether fresh killed or stale, by a tight vent in the former, and a loose open vent if old or stale. Their smell denotes their goodness. Speckled rough legs denote age, while smooth legs and combs prove them young. A goose, if young, the bill will be yellow, and will have but few hairs, the bones will crack easily, but if old the contrary, the bill will be red, and the pads still redder, the joints stiff and difficultly disjointed, if young otherwise. Choose one not very fleshy on the breast, but fat in the rump. Ducks are similar to geese. Wild ducks have redder pads, and smaller than the tame ones, otherwise are like the goose or tame duck, or to be chosen by the same rules. Woodcocks ought to be thick, fat, and flesh firm, the nose dry, and throat clear. Snipes, if young and fat, have full veins under the wing, and are small in the veins, otherwise like the woodcock. Partridges, if young, will have black bills, yellowish legs; if old, the legs look bluish; if old or stale, it may be perceived by smelling at their mouths. Pigeons, young, have light red legs, and the flesh of a colour, and prick easily. Old have red legs, blackish in parts, more hairs, plumper and loose vents. So also of gray or green plover, blade birds, thrash, lark, and wild fowl in general. Hares are white flesh'd and flexible when new, and fresh killed. If stale, their flesh will have a blackish hue, like old pigeons, and if the cleft in their lip spread much, is wide and ragged, she is old, the contrary when young. Leveret is like the hare in every respect, that some are obliged to search for the knob, or small bone on the fore leg or foot, to distinguish them. Rabbits, the wild are the best, either are good and tender. If old, there will be much yellowish fat about the kidneys, the claws long, wool rough, and mixed with gray hairs. If young, the reverse. As to their being fresh, judge by the scent, they soon perish, if trapped or shot, and left in pelt or undressed. Their taint is quicker than veal, and the most sickish in nature, and will not, like beef or veal, be purged by fire. The cultivation of rabbits would be profitable in America, if the best methods were pursued. They are a very prolific and profitable animal. They are easily cultivated if properly attended, but not otherwise. A rabbit's burrow, on which $3000 may have been expended, might be very profitable, but on the small scale they would be well near market towns, easier bred and more valuable. Butter. Tight, waxy, yellow butter is better than white or crumbly, which soon becomes rancid and frowy. Go into the centre of balls or rolls to prove and judge it. If in firkin, the middle is to be preferred, as the sides are frequently distasted by the wood of the firkin, although oak and used for years. New pine tubs are ruinous to the butter. To have sweet butter in dog days and through the vegetable seasons, send stone pots to honest, neat and trusty dairy people, and procure it packed down in May, and let them be brought in the night, or cool rainy morning, covered with a clean cloth, wet in cold water, and partake of no heat from the horse, and set the pots in the coldest part of your cellar, or in the ice house. Some say that May butter thus preserved will go into the winter use, better than fall made butter. Cheese. The red, smooth, moist coated, and tight pressed, square edged cheese, are better than white coat, hard rinded or bilged. The inside should be yellow and flavored to your taste. Old shelves which have only been wiped down for years, are preferable to scoured and washed shelves. Deceits are used by saltpeatering the outside, or coloring with hemlock, cocumberries or saffron infused into the milk. The taste of either supercedes every possible evasion. Eggs. Clear, thin shelled, longest oval and sharp edges are best. To ascertain whether new or stale, hold to the light. If the white is clear, the yolk regularly in the centre, they are good, but if otherwise they are stale. The best possible method of ascertaining is to put them into water. If they lie on their bilge, they are good and fresh. If they bob up on an end, they are stale, and if they rise, they are addled, proved, and of no use. End of Part I of American Cookery, by Amelia Simmons.